Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks.
Well, hi there. Welcome back. Okay, huge list, lots of show notes here, tons to discuss, tons to get to. So get comfortable because it'll be lengthy. I usually get to it all, fortunately, but we'll see. We'll see what happens here. Okay. First of all, from the last episode, thank you for the feedback on the last episode and certainly the discussion that I had with the individual regarding the TERT training that they received. They wanted me to share their email so that you can contact them if you're interested or you know someone who has received the same TERT training from the Department of Homeland Security, because this individual would like to talk with them about, again, what they experienced or if they've experienced any health effects as a result. So I have linked that email in the description below of the previous episode on all the platforms. You can go there and check it out, but I will say it right here. Their email is armybaseinfo@protonmail.com. ARMYBASEINFO @protonmail.com. So again, you know someone who's received that training before or has been injured as a result of that training, reach out to that individual because they'd like to, share some notes and have a conversation about what went on. Okay. The Substack, latest Substack, ladies and gentlemen, for this month is up and running. Let me bounce over to it real quick. It is a homeschooling resource for, frankly, anybody. Anybody who currently homeschools, wants to homeschool, is interested in homeschooling. And it's a great foundation on where to start. Because, in my opinion, one of the major places to start has to do with digging up the roots and the rotten seeds of what you believe homeschooling is, and the government indoctrination that we've been fed that lots of people believe has to exist or has to be a part of their children's lives or a family's life, and that's just not true. So it's titled Homeschooling and the Essence of Time, Philosophical Preparation and Utilizing a Classical History from 3 authors. There are 3 authors that I highlight in this article. The first is Charlotte Mason, of which Cicely Hellickson herself has made me aware of, and I'm reading her books now. I've ordered more. They're on the way. They're incredible. They're absolutely incredible. This woman had her head on straight when it came to teaching children and homeschooling children and teaching parents about how to do it and so on and so forth, and the references are fantastic, and it's all right here. The next is Susan Schaefer Macaulay, and she was a student of the ideologies, so to speak. I wouldn't say ideologies, but the methods, we'll say, of Charlotte Mason, and she wrote a book in 1984 titled For the Children's Sake. I highly recommend that too. I haven't given that a read yet, but Cicely tells me she's reading that. These books, however, I have read, which is the third author that I highlight, which is William McGuffey. Excuse me. His eclectic readers, or the McGuffey readers, are a must when it comes to teaching your children how to read, write, spell, and comprehend what it is that they are reading. It is perfect. And as I state, and as I've stated on the show here before, my niece was illiterate. I ran her through, I think, the first 3 or 4 McGuffey readers here. Certainly the pictorial primer, the eclectic primer, and then the progressive speller, and then we started to get into the first reader, and she finished that one too. So the first 4 in the volume, you can purchase the entire set for about $100 or so on Amazon. I highly recommend it. And again, a brief history of William McGuffey is also included in the Substack article, and then I end with a giant PDF, of course, which exists on my website, of numerous homeschooling resources and a lot of other things. So there you go. Feel free and move that around if you're interested. And yeah, that's about that. Okay. Gosh, there's just a ton here. I hope I hit on these in the correct order. Let me bring this up first. This was, I understand that this is a subject that I've brought up in the past, and a lot of other people have talked about it, but I want to hone in on this because I know that the subject of different topics being out there and different distractions, quote unquote, being brought up is sort of a constant thing that a lot of people discuss, and I fully understand it. People will say, well, we shouldn't be paying attention to this particular subject because it's a distraction, and what else is it distracting us from, and so on and so forth. You've heard me say that we can walk and chew gum at the same time. We can spin multiple plates at the same time while we're juggling. We can do these things. We can pay attention to multiple subjects and dive further into what the enemy is doing, what the enemy has planned, and analyze it to the best of our ability. I want to bring up something specific regarding the Dylan Mulvaney tranny for Anheuser-Busch, who, of course, came out as one of their spokespeople and was hired to be one of their spokespeople, and then, of course, the whole thing just blew straight to hell, and rightfully so. People have to understand something about Dylan Mulvaney, which is not being discussed at any great length, I don't think. Dylan Mulvaney is not just a man pretending to be a woman. That's bad enough. It's far worse than that. Dylan Mulvaney is pretending to be younger than he is. He's pretending to be a minor when he's not. That's the problem. And as a result of all of that really being sort of the root of his issue, he is, in my opinion, allegedly, a pedophile. When a major company, a multi-billion-dollar company like Anheuser-Busch hires a pedophile to be their spokesperson, you should pay attention to that. That should bother you. It should be a warning because it's the enemy taking a shot over your bow, and you should pay attention to that. But you should look at what they're shooting over your bow. And what they're shooting is a tranny, a man pretending to be a woman who's also pretending to be a minor. For the purpose of doing what? Soliciting the attention of minors around the subject of alcohol. This is a problem. This is not something that should be shuffled under the rug or swept under the rug or ignored or whatever. This is a big, big problem. And what the enemy has done here, and by enemy I mean Khazarian Mafia, who is satanic and Jewish, they happen to be making this move on purpose to see how far they can go. They're always moving that Overton window, so to speak, in order to get people to look through it and accept it. Now, fortunately, they've been destroyed. The company is all over the place. They're losing money at a fast-paced rate. There's no avoiding it. This is what these companies are not learning. They're not learning this, but they don't care if they don't learn it. This is their agenda. And it's among many of them, certainly the ones at the very top. All of these companies, again, that are ultimately owned by BlackRock and Vanguard and these other groups, they're always trying to make those inroads in the most degenerate way possible to see, and of course they're always gauging this in their focus groups, and they're constantly taking notes and paying attention to the qualitative reasoning and analysis of what people say online. They're writing all of this, they're writing all of this down because they want to see what they can get away with next. See, they'll swing for the fences, okay, and attempt to hit a grand slam with a tranny who's pretending to be a minor to solicit attention from children around the subject of alcohol. That's a big swing. That's a huge swing. They'll do that, but what move are they going to make next? Because the move they might make next might be more subtle. It might not be as big of a swing. Do you see what I mean? They get everybody's attention with the giant swing that they're taking. People ignore that. Unfortunately, a lot of people do, a lot of people don't. But then a lot of people also say, well, it's a distraction. Don't worry about it. I don't care. It doesn't matter. No. It matters. It's a big flippin' deal. The thing we have to pay attention to next is what are they going to do next as a company to make another inroad? It could be something as subtle as, and it's not even subtle anymore, but hiding a flag, one of those rainbow gay flags on something, on one of their products in the future, sneaking in their symbolism a little bit to where we won't notice it. Because again, we're now thinking everything about them is going to be tranny related. So I guess that's my point. My point is that my overall point is that we shouldn't ignore it ever. We always have to pay attention to every single move that the enemy makes. We have to focus on it. We have to analyze it the best we can and don't sweep it under the rug. This is a dude pretending to be a woman who's even worse, pretending to be a minor regarding the subject of alcohol. Ergo, he is trying to get children to do what he's doing, including drinking alcohol. That's a problem because he's a pedophile. See how that works? This is predatory behavior at the hands of a massive company. Big deal. It was like when back in 2020, all of a sudden, everybody was taking the knee for Black Lives Matter. Remember all that nonsense? Remember all the athletes wearing Black Lives Matter on the backs of their jerseys? European soccer was the last sport I watched. That was it. It was the last one I was holding on to. I thought, well, it's already kind of gay, but, maybe they won't, and then bang, they did it. It was Black Lives Matter on every Liverpool jersey from here to Timbuktu, and I thought, that's it, I'm done. I'm done. I haven't watched it since. This matters. We have to pay attention to these kinds of things. We can't, you can't sweep a Dylan Mulvaney under the rug. Again, not an accident that he was on Drew Barrymore's show before people found out about the Anheuser-Busch thing. That was part of the normalization. Let's normalize this kind of behavior. Let's tell them they're courageous and pat them on the back and, massage their ego. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. These people should, lots of things should happen to them, but yeah. They're predators. They're sexual predators. Yes, we should pay attention to sexual predators. Just wanted to make that clear. Just wanted to get that off my chest. Okay. The Jamie Foxx thing. Fully aware that Jamie Foxx had a stroke. Yes, he was jabbed. That's well-known information. There you go. Another one bites the dust. That leads me to this. This was sent my way from a friend of mine who lives in the same town as I do. And as it turns out, the city's finance director, by the name of Joseph Newland, where I live, died of a heart attack while out on his lunch break while walking around last Friday. Face down dead. Bang. Just like that. Now, as you've heard me say, I've warned these people. I didn't warn him, of course, but I've warned city employees who are associated with the city council about these shots. As you know, I warned the school board. I've warned lots of people. County commissioners in emails with references attached, state representatives, so on and so on and so on. How many emails am I getting back from these people? None. So I've sent another email on the back of this finance director having died. He was at least 2 or 3 jabs in. I'm certain of it. Again, he was the finance director, which means this would have been the guy who approved the money that gave the go-ahead, essentially, to the city council to pay city workers $100 if they got the COVID shots, the bioweapon. This guy signed off on it. He had to have been one of the people. You can't be the finance director and, not know where the money is going and what it's going for and so on and so forth. So here's what I did. I sent yet another email. I want to read through it quickly. This is another example of a template, and I put this out on Gab. And I'm probably going to upload this template yet again to my website because, again, this is just it's becoming problematic at this point. It's always been a problem, but in my opinion, this has to be the thing that we do every single time that a local official who is in the public eye or is hired by the people that we elect or the actual elected officials end up biting the dust. And we can, of course, make the connections that, in fact, it is the jabs. I mean, the guy wasn't hit by a bus. He fell over in the middle of a day of a heart attack. He took the jabs. This did not look like an unhealthy, overweight individual by any stretch. So, again, I'm not wishing for people to die, and I don't want people to think that this is tasteless. I actually think that this is the next move forward that we all have to make. We have to put the government on blast so that they understand that we know what's really going on, even though they may not. And let's face it, they don't know what's going on. Again, when was the last time you heard a Washington, D.C. or a state representative or governor say anything about the shots? It comes in waves. Oh, look, there's Ron Johnson's wave. Oh, Ron Johnson's gone again. Oh, look, there's Ron DeSantis. Oh, Ron DeSantis is gone again. Who else is talking about it? Nobody. And those guys don't talk about it nearly enough. It's the only thing happening on a constant basis, is that people are biting the dust from being jabbed. And city councils and mayors were encouraging endless people to take it. So I want to read what I just sent. Every single city council member, the mayor, the city manager, all their assistants, their lawyers, I sent it to everybody. And here's what I sent them. Again, I will put this on my website under government documents. It says the following, quote, in fact, in the subject line of the email, and don't tell me it's tasteless. Again, I'm trying to get their attention. I mean that. I'm not trying to twist the knife here. I'm just trying to get their attention. In the subject line, I wrote, "Where's your city manager?" Question mark. That was the subject. Here's what I wrote. I said, quote, "You were warned. This is another warning. You advocated for a never-before unknown vaccine, quote unquote, and even invited the director of McCallahide Hospital in the city to the city council meeting in an attempt to get him to encourage everyone in town to take a booster shot, quote unquote. You also paid city workers $100 to take the shots. How's that working out so far? How many did your finance director take? Can you not see that the only people getting sick and dying are the jabbed? What you've actually done is you've encouraged everyone to take a defined biological weapon." This, and some of this repeats from a previous thing that I said, but I want to read through it again very quickly. I said, quote, this so-called vaccine is in fact a categorized biological weapon by definition, as the Pfizer paperwork in Karen Kingston's articles states below, with only one intent: to kill those who take it. In an expose article below, it is proven, along with countless peer-reviewed articles referenced within, that the COVID bioweapon shots are causing permanently compromised immune systems among all those who take them, also referred to as AIDS, acquired immune deficiency syndrome, or VAIDS, vaccine-acquired immune deficiency syndrome, and the endless syndromes, quote-unquote, i.e. illnesses, that come about as a result. These shots also contain graphene oxide and self-forming nanoparticle metals that are directly manipulated by EMF radiation magnetism and 5G technology, along with wireless internet environments at high frequencies that may be inescapable. On a personal note, ask yourself the following. Have you ever taken these shots? How many have you taken? How many times have you been ill since your first shot? Has this ever happened to you in the past? Do you think this is normal? And then I said your inability to understand these topics and their connections to one another at face value is not an excuse. Your duty as elected officials and citizens of the United States of America, as per your oaths of office, is to inform yourselves of these topics and not blindly follow suggestions, recommendations, or monetary contracts when implementation of such devices and substances can be harmful to you and anyone you represent. As a result of this direct communication, you are now in possession of names, articles, scientific proof, and individuals involved in combating this issue, legally speaking. Typo, darn it. It is, rather, incumbent upon you to remove the COVID-19 bioweapon shots from the city of Oxford and communicate the removal of them with any administration or organization that is responsible for their purchase and or distribution, along with the removal of 5G towers. These entities named below are suing these government agencies in court, and that alone should be proof enough to not move forward with any of these harmful substances and technologies, COVID bioweapon shots or 5G, or the contracts that you are engaging in. If you have also been lied to, I said. You too personally have been taken advantage of. Now your ignorance is being counted on by those at the top to carry out their technologies to harm yourselves and others. This has already worked, as upwards of 20 million worldwide and counting are dead from the COVID-19 vaccines, quote unquote. I bet you didn't know that. Many more will die with each passing day. The continued implementation of 5G towers will only amplify these ill effects and outcomes. Your ignorance on these issues is not an excuse to dismiss these statements. It is also your responsibility to move this communication and documentation to all of those within your departments who are responsible for addressing such issues. This is not my responsibility. Do not pass the buck and kick the can down the road with your departments to avoid involvement or keep people in the dark. Here's how I ended it. It would be foolish to ignore this message and warning. The state has been warned. The Butler County Commissioner's Office has been warned and notified, as have our local state representatives. I wouldn't dismiss this email if I was you. Sooner or later, it will become painfully obvious what you have done to yourselves and what you encouraged and told others to do. You're running out of time, unquote. And I linked, again, 2 articles from the expose, which describe, again, how it's compromising people's immune systems and the jabbed have AIDS. Another one very recently, from Children's Health Defense regarding the death shots versus flu vaccine VAERS database. Karen Kingston's Substack page, the whole page. A recent article from Children's Health Defense regarding the 5G rollout. I linked a video from SGT Report regarding the 5G, and then you may recall that I was building a giant list of peer-reviewed articles, all having to do with the jabs, that I should have been keeping track of that since the start. My apologies. I listed all of those. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 peer-reviewed articles, all having to do with the jabs. That's it. That's the email I sent. That's the template that I'll have up on my website for you to do the exact same thing. Every single time that a local official dies, ask yourself if they're jabbed, do your best to connect the dots, and then send out that email or an email like it. Again, cater it to your local officials, whatever you have to do. We have to put these people on notice of what they've done. Because here's the funny part. It's not funny, it's sad, because frankly, it just shows how blind people are. I found out the other day that in the same town, of course, where Miami University is located, that apparently the current president, Greg Crawford, I believe his name is, the current president of the university who went along with the jabs and all the COVID nonsense, he and his wife have apparently built a retirement home here in town. So he actually believes that he and his wife are going to retire in this town. Are they jabbed? That's number one. Number two, when more people wake up to what he has done as the president of the university, along with any other official in town who went along with this, when they start waking up, the people of this town are going to rip them limb from limb. They won't be retiring in this town for very long. I bet that house goes up for sale rather quickly once he retires. Because when more and more people figure out what he's done, they're going to get pissed. Just like the mayor, just like endless other people. And we can't let those officials, so to speak, elected or not, presidents of universities or not. We can't let them get away with it. And by get away with it, I mean this. We can't let them swoop in and try to play the hero. Well, we've learned that apparently some people have passed from the shots and some people are becoming ill, and we want to make it clear that we were unaware of that before all of this was happening. No, 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 no. No, we're not going to let that happen. They don't get to then swoop in and play the hero and monetarily profit from playing the hero once they come to grips with what they've done. Again, I'm not advocating for harming anybody. That's not it. They've already harmed plenty of people. What I'm saying is that we put pressure on them either via email with these kinds of templates, this kind of information, and then by their own actions and their own guilt, they will be run out of town. That's what we have to do. We have to ostracize these people. Just like the trannies who want to swim against girls, it's the same kind of thing. We have to ostracize them, put them on an island all by themselves with a giant spotlight on them so that they can't escape and we know right where they are. But we can't let them just, again, continue to do what they're doing, advocate for what they're advocating for when they are not awake, they're dead asleep, and they have no idea what's going on. They're killing not only themselves and their own family members, but their own fellow employees. My God. I mean, doesn't that violate an oath along the way somewhere? I think it does. I think it violates lots of things. I just think that that's where we have to go. I think that that's the next move that we have to make. That every single time again that we hear of a local official, school board member, city council, whatever it is, city employee, doesn't matter, that we put these people on blast so that they know what they've actually participated in without their knowledge. And they may not wake up. And if they don't, well, like I said in the email, they're going to find out the hard way sooner or later. There's not going to be any way to avoid it. They're ticking time bombs. So, yeah, remind them what they've done and what they encouraged others to do and even forced or bullied others into doing. That's the larger issue there too. Okay, speaking of violations of oaths of office, this, of course, has been making the rounds. This is from jellyfish.news, associated with John B. Wells. It's titled U.S. Attorney's Office, the District of Columbia petition for writ of quo warranto. It says the whole cabinet is void. Apparently, and I'm just going to summarize this as quickly as I can, apparently the cabinet of Joe Biden, including the vice president, did not take their oaths of office. They did not sign the necessary documentation that they have to sign in order to hold the position that they hold legally. Ergo, they are in place illegally. Just wanted to throw that out there. Again, that's been making the rounds. Does it surprise me? No. They are installed. I don't think that they are acting. I think they are this stupid. I think that they are doing what they are doing because they are criminals, and not signing a piece of paper that they need to sign, which verifies their placement, is exactly what we would expect them to not do. Yeah. They're going to have to hang. That's really about it. They're just going to have to hang. Because again, they are illegally ruling over us, so they think. And all they're doing really is representing a foreign land, which is Washington, D.C. And yeah, there you go. So I just wanted to bring that to people's attention. That's a thing. That's happening. Education stuff, there's a lot. Oh, God. Okay, lots of school fight videos. I've been seeing a bunch. Lots more. People are taking them, tossing them up on TikTok. I don't know the dates of all of them. I don't know the timing of all of them necessarily, but they're brutal and they're awful. Teachers getting in fights with students picking fights with teachers, boys picking fights with girls picking fights with boys. It's never ending. All the more reason to leave the government system, ladies and gentlemen, and homeschool yourself. You will be happier for it. Your children will be smarter for it. They will be more civilized. This is the way forward. It's the only way forward. And then there's this, which I have to mention, and I'm glad that a family member tossed this my way. I think it was my mother, as a matter of fact. Thanks, Mom, for sending this. This is from The Blaze, and I've spoken about this very particular issue before. I've even written about it in books. So it brings me great joy to bring this to your attention. It is titled, "That's Actually So Gross. Middle school staff members participate in licking game with students. Allow me to explain." They have a picture and the YouTube video showing all of this taking place. It says the following, quote, "Just before spring break, Desert Hills Middle School in Kennewick, Washington, about a half hour north of the Oregon border, held a school assembly and fundraiser in the gym." Right there. School assembly and fundraiser in the gym. Ladies and gentlemen, these never go well. They never go well. They're 100% unnecessary. They should never exist, and you're about to figure out why. It says one particular activity held during the assembly left many students feeling awkward and their parents angry. During the activity, here it comes, a piece of plexiglass was placed in the middle of the gym floor. On both sides of the plexiglass, marshmallow cream was smeared in 4 distinct areas, basically from left to right. Then, a team of students raced against a team of staff members, which reportedly included a vice principal, of course it would, to see which side could lick all of the cream off first. The most disturbing moments of the game occurred when students and adults, separated only by a clear piece of plexiglass, were licking the cream at the same time. One of the students recorded the game on a cell phone and the video went viral. Even as many students laughed and cheered, others can still be heard expressing discomfort throughout the video, making comments such as, quote, "That's actually so gross, what the heck, and who thought this was a good idea?" Exclamations of "ew" can be heard throughout the video. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if I had a nickel for every time as a school teacher I said the following regarding school administration and school employees: "That's actually gross, what the heck, and who thought that was a good idea?" I'd have truckloads of nickels. Because I've watched activities like this take place with regularity when I was a school teacher. You see, these are not the sharpest knives in the drawer. These people do not think. They do not have a business mind. They do not have a public relations mind. They're not bright. When they were concocting this activity, I'll put it this way: when they were sitting in a room, putting their heads together and thinking to themselves, what can we do to raise money? Let's have an obstacle course of sorts. Let's do things that will have students and teachers mingling, and that will be fun, and it'll look like we're all on the same team. Oh, and by the way, let's have them licking plexiglass at the exact same time on opposite sides of the plexiglass so it looks like they're really licking each other when in fact they're not, but it still looks that way. Who thinks this is a good idea? Everybody raises their hands and says, yes, that's an excellent idea. That will be funny. I would have been the only person in the room, of course. I never would have been invited, but I would have been the only person in the room to raise my hand and say, what the hell is the matter with all of you? Have you all had a lobotomy recently? What is happening? The video is on YouTube. I've linked it on my Gab page. Trust me, I will put it in the most recent war video. You can go over there and check it out yourself. Let me conclude the article, because I'm sure it gets way more entertaining. After she learned about the video, District Superintendent Dr. Tracy Pierce, I'm sure there's an EDD in there somewhere, sent a letter home to parents condemning the licking game. Quote, "This activity does not reflect the high standards we hold for our staff members and outlined in district policy. The content of the video being shared on social media is highly concerning, and the situation is currently being investigated by the district." Who will lose their job over this? Nobody. Answer: no one. The administrator, and there was at least one who probably approved it, will get a slap on the wrist and say, "What the hell's the matter with you? Apologize to your staff members. Don't do it again." That'll be it. That'll be it. They should be fired for complete and utter retardation. I don't know if that's in the contract where it says you're retarded, but that should happen. They should get fired for being retarded. It continues, it says this activity does not have district approval and will never be repeated in the future. Don't worry, Superintendent. Something equally as stupid will happen in the future. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. It says, after viewing the video, some parents suggested that the school was sexually grooming students, but Pierce denied those accusations. Quote, there is zero evidence to suggest or support that this was in any way grooming activity on the part of organizers or participants, she said, claiming that the intent of the activity was innocent and not ill-intended. Ladies and gentlemen, I lost my job and was forced out of a school district because they were grooming, physically grooming, sexually grooming, and physically abusing children. And administrators were allowing it to happen. And I lost my job. See how that works? Discretion. They practice discretion. Some people are in jail for doing things like this. I mean, not the licking plexiglass thing. That's just stupid. But people are in jail for doing far worse, like the things that I caught people doing when I was an employee. But of course, the people who I caught are not in jail. They should be, but they're not. These people, of course, won't lose their jobs. They should, but they won't. Principal Casey Grant, the Brain Trust, who can reportedly be seen on the video laughing and filming the game, has also issued an apology. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're issuing apologies as a school employee, you're an idiot. Because the thing that you did was stupid. But you didn't think about it being stupid before you did it. That's a serious problem. She said, quote, or he, whoever it is, Casey can't tell. On behalf of Desert Hills Middle School, I would like to apologize for the activity that took place during our recent assembly. As building principal, I take ownership of the events that occur in my school, and I recognize the impact that the situation has had on our school community. Stop saying community, but they say it again. I am committed to the safety of our students and staff and will ensure that all future activities meet the highest professional standards and adhere to district policy. Again, I apologize that this incident occurred and for the negativity brought to the Desert Hills community. They are apologizing for the wrong thing. They're not saying, I'm sorry. God, this is so in my wheelhouse. I put this in all in my first book. I experienced this very thing, right down to the bone. They never say they're sorry. They say, I apologize. And then, what are they apologizing for? They're not apologizing for being retarded. They're apologizing for people getting upset that this happened. I apologize that the incident occurred and for the negativity brought to the Desert Hills community. You see, they're apologizing that people got upset, that people found out. That's what they're really apologizing for. Their apology letter should have said the following. I'm sorry this happened. It was my decision. I'm sorry I'm retarded. I quit. I'm resigning effective immediately. The end. That's all they had to say. It then says, because the story has to continue, the mother of the student who filmed the incident still finds it unsettling and seems to doubt the supposed innocent, quote-unquote, intentions of those who scheduled and participated in it. Quote, in my opinion, we do not send our children to school to be exposed to highly sexualized behavior by adults, unquote, she told Jason Rantz of KTTH, a local conservative talk radio station. Quote, we send them to school to learn and for them to socialize with other people their ages. That's debatable. They shouldn't have to sit in a gym for a school assembly and wonder what's going on. You're right. School should be a safe place for children to go, and this despicable display of adult behavior was hard to watch, unquote. Superintendent Pierce said she, it's a woman, was taking corrective measures regarding the game, but declined to elaborate on the nature of those measures, citing confidentiality with respect to personnel matters. That right there tells you what they're going to do. Translation, there will be a letter put in their personnel file that says if they ever do something like this or allow something like this ever again, they will lose their jobs. They will be warned, their wrists will be slapped, and that will be it. That's it. They'll go right back to their cushy job with their giant paycheck and continue to be retarded because, let's face it, you can't replace that. You can't remove that wavelength of thought. But don't worry, they will make a mistake later on that will be very similar because this is what they do. These environments are not designed to focus on reading, writing, arithmetic, speaking the English language fluently, mastering the English language, heaven forbid, and then becoming a productive citizen in society after learning the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth within these environments. They're not designed for that, which is why homeschooling is the only way forward. Make this middle school destitute by not sending your children anymore. They're middle school students. They can read and write. Why are you still sending them then, parent who filmed it, who didn't accept the apology and finds this to be strange? Again, it was clearly an obstacle course. There's at least one thing of plexiglass on the table, which would have required at least 4 teachers to participate in this activity with at least 4 other students on the other side of the plexiglass. It's the epitome of retardation. I don't know what else to say. Honestly. I could rehash all the stories I've brought up in the past of activities that I've heard about and seen within assemblies like this, fundraising activities, so on and so forth. As I said at the top, it never works out. Never. Never works out. Here's something else that hasn't worked out. Nice, smooth segue. This comes from joannejacobs.com. It is titled Algebra for None, quote unquote, fails in San Francisco. The goal was equity. It says, the result, meh. Frustrated by high failure rates in 8th grade algebra, San Francisco Unified School District decided in 2015 to delay algebra till 9th grade. And, of course, it says, place low, average, and high achievers in the same classes. The goal was to improve achievement for Black and Hispanic students preparing more for advanced math. That didn't happen, concludes a study by the team of Stanford professors. Quote, large ethno-racial gaps in advancing math course taking did not change, unquote. It then says Black students aren't more likely to enroll in AP Math. Hispanic enrollment increased by 1 percentage point. Overall, there was no change in the number of students receiving credit for advanced math classes or the number taking math in 12th grade. A proposed new California math framework encourages other districts to copy San Francisco's math reforms, of which the district claimed success, writes Sarah Schwartz in Education Week. These people are arguably the dumbest on the face of the planet. I don't know what else to say. This is it's getting exhausting, isn't it? How much more evidence does Jesus Christ himself have to put in front of people's faces before they finally walk away from these environments permanently? They love trying stuff, don't they? Let's delay math, and I bet more races will succeed in math. Sorry, contestant fails. Let's lick some plexiglass in the middle of a gymnasium, in the middle of a fundraiser. That'll work out. Sorry. Incorrect answer yet again. How much more evidence do we need? It's daily. It's a daily thing. The subject of American K12 and university education is the butt of every joke. It's the butt of every joke. Every single one. It's the punchline. Here it comes. Here comes another one. And yes, here comes another one. I've got a bunch here. A bunch today. Gateway Pundit. Trans Florida teacher. Because, the tranny train has to pull out of the station yet again. Here it comes. Toot, toot. Trans Florida teacher keeps job. Despite allegedly threatening to shoot students, guns taken away by law enforcement. Oh my. It says the following. Here we go. Fox Chapel Middle School parents in Hernando County, Florida are demanding answers, I bet you are, from the administration after a teacher allegedly made disturbing comments about shooting students and failed to notify them. The middle school's assistant principal, Carrie Thornton, and guidance counselor Kimberly Walby reported on March 24th that a teacher had allegedly shown suicidal ideation and discussed the possibility of shooting students. Sounds like a healthy learning environment, doesn't it? Sarcasm. The school district conducted an investigation, I bet you did, and deemed the statements troubling. However, the teacher was not terminated and was back in the classroom again. Of course they were. Parents complained that they were not notified by the school officials regarding the alleged threat. The district stated that the threats were only made out of frustration with students' behavior. Yes, let's cut the trannies some more slack, because when you give these whack jobs an inch, they take a mile. Have I mentioned that I wrote a Substack recently about homeschooling and the importance of homeschooling? With 3 authors who, I might add, should be taught in university teacher education departments, but are not. Fully ignored. And as I say in the Substack article, William McGuffey, of all people, is blatantly ignored in McGuffey Hall, and there are at least 2 of them in the state of Ohio, one on Miami University's campus and another on Ohio University's campus in Athens. His name is completely ignored. There's even a museum of him across the street from McGuffey Hall on Miami University's campus, and a statue of McGuffey himself reading a book with children sort of at his feet, also, I think, reading or listening to him. And that's ignored also. They don't teach any of their students about the history of William McGuffey. And we wonder why there's a problem. Everybody wonders why. Well, not everybody. We know why. Let's see. A few things related in the UK. This is disturbing also. I'm just going to read the titles here. Daily Mail. Single-sex schools will be able to reject transgender pupils, and teachers can refuse to call children by their preferred pronouns under new government guidelines. Well, that's nice. It says guidance will apply to all state and independent single-sex schools in England. It is being drawn up by the Education Secretary Gillian Keegan and Kemi Badenoch, I guess, is their name. Well, I mean, that's good, I guess. Finally making a little common sense inroad, apparently. There's this, however, which is disturbing, which seems to contradict the previous story. Teacher says good afternoon, girls, at an all-girls school, then gets fired. Fight erupts over students' demand to be addressed by wrong pronouns. A teacher opened up her speech to a class at a girls' school in the United Kingdom with good afternoon, girls, and has been fired for that. A report from Fox News said that the teacher, a woman, also forced to apologize to the girls. The report explains that it was an institution run by the Girls' Day School Trust that took the action against the teacher. The students claim that they told the teacher that not everybody here identifies as female. Well, then you identify as retarded. They, of course, then express their dissatisfaction, it says, by protesting and creating signs to carry around protesting the teacher's comment. That'll show them for making sense and being civil. Your response, of course, is to be deranged and uncivil. Got it. The teacher told the Daily Mail anonymously that the treatment by the students in school was humiliating and embarrassing. Yes. She had welcomed, it says, the student to her class, but the report quoted her saying, before the end of the week, I was in some sort of disciplinary process, and the head of year was telling me I had to apologize to the girls. She explained that she had an application for a contract renewal at the school pending, and after the girls' incident, quote unquote, developed, she was told her contract was not being renewed. I've said it endless times. Here comes endless plus one. These environments are only going to be for the uncivilized in the future. They already are. They already are. They are not for the bright. They are for the uncivilized. I know that there are bright people who work within. Still. I know that there are civilized people who work within. Still. I'm certain of that. It's mathematically impossible. They still wouldn't be there. I get it. However, going forward, the teaching staff and the administration are only going to be the whack jobs and the uncivilized. That's the way that this moves forward. That's the future, certainly of the public realm, but that's working its way through the charter and private school realm as well. The private schools are not free from these colossal errors in judgment that they are making. They are not free from these agendas. You've heard me say it too again regarding charter schools. Same thing. But specifically, the private Catholic schools, if they get an email that says they're going to go gay on a particular subject or a particular ideology, or all of the sudden a rainbow flag shows up, all bets are off, ladies and gentlemen. The jury is in as to what direction they're going to head in. Homeschool. It's the only way forward. And it doesn't mean sitting at a table with your child as they do their quote-unquote work all of the time. That's not what homeschooling is. Read Charlotte Mason's books. Read them. Read Susan McCulley's books. And she's written more than one. Read those too. Re-educate yourselves. Unlearn the poisonous seeds that have been planted. I'm telling you. We all have more to learn. I mean, I don't have children, and I'm reading books about homeschooling. Wrap your head around that. I mean, I love homeschooling, and I've never been homeschooled. I homeschooled my niece and nephew for a few months. Loved it. Loved it. Would have done it differently. Also, would have done it way differently had I had known more. A big mistake on my part. But unfortunately, at the time, their public school system had very specific things in place that they still wanted them to do in order to receive a grade. So, I mean, I couldn't do my own thing with them on a constant basis, but yeah, I did plenty of good things with them, clearly. And they would probably even testify to that also, including teaching my niece how to read. The point is that these schools have got to be destitute. They have to become destitute. And fortunately, again, I'll bring you an update in the future, but you heard me bring up a local school district in a neighboring town where I live. The state is knocking on their front door right now because they are insolvent. And they're going to try to pass in just a couple of weeks here on voting day, which I think is March 2nd. They're going to try to pass another ridiculous levy, which will not pass. And then the school is going to have state officials busting through the door, cleaning house. Because these people are stupid. All these expensive programs, all these ridiculous sports programs, etc., etc. It's all a waste of time. A colossal waste of time. Okay, let's see here. A couple other things. Let me go back to the jabs real quick. And I'll bring this up. In fact, this is perfect timing. Okay, shifting gears to the jabs. I put this out. I watched this the other night. Stu Peters had a dad on whose daughter had Down syndrome. She was of adult age, so she was over 18. But the hospital killed her because of COVID, the fake COVID stuff. And I want to bring this to your attention because this hit me, excuse me, it hit me like a freight train when I was watching it. And as you know, I don't agree with Stu Peters on everything. He thinks people got killed in the Nashville shooting. He's not awake when it comes to stuff like that. He even had a guest on describing how this particular individual, the guest he had on, apparently advocates for more security and more security measures to take places in school. And when this individual reached out to people who are associated with these school districts in that Nashville area, they did not reply back to him. See, that's a red flag, ladies and gentlemen. If the officials in charge of security aren't replying back to people concerned about a particular quote-unquote school shooting, which of course really didn't happen, and they're not receiving emails in return, that should tell you that something is suspicious, that maybe it didn't happen. With that aside, this particular dad, the next guest he had on, again was describing how this hospital killed his daughter. The hospital is run by the Ascension Healthcare Systems. The word Ascension came, again, hit me like a freight train. It's in the last Q post 4966. The word Ascension is actually the last word in the post, but the whole post says the following, quote, "What is coded in your DNA? Who put it there? Why? Mankind is repressed. We will be repressed no more. Information is knowledge. Knowledge is power. Information is power. How do you protect your DNA? There is a war for your DNA. Protect your DNA. Ascension. Q." So, I looked up Ascension. Ascension Healthcare Systems pops up. Ascension is one of the largest private healthcare systems in the United States, ranking second in the United States by number of hospitals as of 2019. It was founded as a nonprofit Catholic healthcare network in 1999. It then says, by the end of 2021, Ascension had 142,000 employees in 142 hospitals at 40 senior living facilities across the United States. Ascension. Murderers. 142 hospitals in 40 senior living facilities across the U.S. If they killed this guy's daughter with the feeding tubes and the poisons and the drugs that they were tossing down her throat and through her IV system there, what do you think they were doing in senior homes? I also want to state this too. I think this is something that Amazing Polly should do. She's very good with names, and she's very good with diving and taking the time to dive into people's names and their past employment history and a lot of other things and connecting those dots. So I hope Amazing Polly finds out about this. I might even email her and tell her about this. First of all, Ascension Medical Systems is based out of St. Louis, Missouri. Their president is a Joseph Impaccici, if I'm saying that right. No chance. Impicciche. Impaccici? No, again, I got nothing on that. Again, a lot of people here. Carol Schmidt, the SVP of Ascension Ministry Market Executive Ascension in Michigan. Richard Rohr, the President and CEO of Ascension Mercy in Chicago. Tom Van Osdol, Chief Mission Integration Officer at Ascension, and the list is endless regarding their employees. If you want a taste of their politics, and by the way, I should say this, the President and Chief Executive Officer at Ascension from 2004 to present is the Executive Vice President and General Counsel, so he's their lawyer also. He's also the president from January 2019. He's the president and chief operating officer, and then became the CEO Let's see, and has been the CEO since July of 2019. Interesting timing. Interesting timing. Right before all hell broke loose. He has a bachelor's degree from Wabash College, Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis, with a master's in health administration, and then Indiana University Law School. Here's their politics. It says Ascension has joined the healthcare sector climate pledge, committing to reduce carbon emissions 50% by 2030. Ascension, carbon. We are the carbon. We are the carbon that they're trying to get rid of. Whether they know it or not is another story, but these people give me the willies, ladies and gentlemen. They give me the willies. They're a weird-looking bunch, these people. Yikes. Okay. That's a deep dive that Amazing Polly's got to go down. Like I said, I might email her. I never miss one of her dives, one of her episodes, but I bet she can make some serious dot connections with Ascension. Again, the Q post points to it directly, without a doubt. They want to damage your DNA permanently, and of course they want you dead. We're the carbon they want gone. Okay. Let me play just a little bit from that Stu Peters episode. So give this a listen again. I'm just going to give you a taste. It was 18 minutes long, but it's interesting. Here we go.
And while Grace's doctors killed her, the Sheras, of course, were powerless to do anything thanks to COVID protocols that prevented them from being with her as her life slipped away. Well, Scott is now planning to file a lawsuit against Ascension St. Elizabeth Hospital for what happened to Grace. His goal is to expose once and for all what happened to his daughter in the name of stopping the pandemic, and we're happy to help him do that. Scott Shera joins us now. Scott, thank you so much for coming back. We always appreciate having you.
The pleasure's mine, Stu. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you're going to sue the hell out of them, and you're going to win. Tell us why.
Well, the lawsuit was filed April 11th, and when you say sue them, I just want to explain, because this is one of the main reasons this is a landmark case. Mm-hmm. Not only did we sue Ascension Hospital, which they're the one that Grace died at was St. Elizabeth's. Ascension Hospital System, so people don't realize, or that they do realize, is the second largest nonprofit, and I'm putting nonprofit in quotes. It's the second largest nonprofit hospital system in the United States. They have $30 billion in cash reserves, and they hide behind the Catholic banner. So, this is truly a David versus Goliath story. But more importantly than that is, we are individually suing 5 doctors as part of the same lawsuit, and 2 nurses, the ones that were directly involved with Grace's death. And the reason that's important and makes this a landmark case is because it's near impossible to sue, and I can go into that next. But when we did this, our goal is to have individual people, the doctors and nurses, realize you have a responsibility for your choice. You cannot blame it on the administrator of the hospital, the NIH protocol, Fauci, whatever else you want to blame it on. The reality is you chose. And we want this to be spread across the nation, so everybody in the entire nation sees that individual doctors and nurses are going to be held to account. Because in that light, we can stop this. We can stop this craziness. 1.2 million Americans were killed in hospitals in the last 3 years with COVID as a diagnosis. We've got to stop this, Stu, and we're hoping this lawsuit, by shining light on this evil, is a step forward in that regard.
Yeah. You mentioned that it was hard or difficult to sue. Why is that?
Well, for one, I'll walk through it. The first thing is malpractice as a claim. So we have several claims in Grace's lawsuit, but early on, I met an attorney who's a partner in a 300-person firm, and he said, "Scott, this is a big case, and I want to refer you to somebody who has medical malpractice experience." So I talked with the best lawyer in the state of Wisconsin for medical malpractice, and he said, "Scott, even in slam dunk cases like yours appears to be, there's only a 1 in 10 chance of winning." I said, "I can't, what do you mean?" He said, "Let me share an example with you." He said, "I represented a family who lost a loved one who had a sponge soda inside of him, and we lost." I said, "How is that possible?" And he said, "We brought 10 expert witnesses and they brought 100. they circle the wagons around their own, and we lost. So when you look at that, so now you see, okay, there's a bar before you even start. Attorneys don't want to take mal cases because they can't win. They've got to front the money in hopes of getting 1/3 of the proceeds, and they're taking on cases they can't win. More importantly, in Grace's case, Grace was a legal adult. And because of that, my wife Cindy and I had no claim. We had to open up an estate for Grace just to file. And then there's almost no financial damages. So then you've got to use your own money to fund the case. So they know this. I mean, this was set up by the cabal for decades before COVID. It's just COVID's exposing it. I'm getting calls every week, Stu, from people who say, "Who's your attorney? How can we get an attorney to take on our case? Nobody will even return our call." Well, it isn't the attorney's fault. It is the system was set up so that you literally cannot sue. And if you can, there's no damages.
You said something really interesting. You said that you brought, or this attorney in a former case brought 10 expert witnesses, and then the defendants brought 100, and they circled the wagons for their own. That was really interesting that you said that, because now if you apply that to current times, right, with this COVID-19, these doctors know. They know what they did. And they know that they have to protect themselves, but now there are millions of them. And this is the most catastrophic kill-off that the planet has ever seen. How many expert witnesses are they going to bring now in this case? Because if they fall, and if your lawsuit is successful, that opens the floodgates, as you noted, for millions and millions of others whose family members were murdered in the name of stopping a pandemic.
Well, I think that's spot on, Stu. I mean, that is, a lot of people ask, well, what's your motivation to do this? And it's become so much bigger than Grace's case at this point, because you feel this weight. I mean, you have the same thing. It's something that drives you. I mean, it's our responsibility to shed light on evil. And it drives you beyond what you can do yourself, because God is behind you and he's doing the work. And it's something I never thought I would be doing in my life, but it's such an important work that I can't stop doing it at this point, Stu.
That's just one person's experience, too. One person's experience. There's no way that they're the only person. This has happened on a grand scale, and the judicial system is not going to help us in this regard. They won't. They just won't. I don't know what the solution to this is. I really don't. It's awfully surprising, but again, you got to cut them some slack at some point, I suppose. Their daughter apparently got sick, and then, of course, as we know, the hospital kidnapped them and killed them. That, of course, happened on a massive scale. Why would they do that? Why would the parents do that and send their children, or their child in this particular case, to the hospital? Well, back then a lot of people still trusted them. They trusted what they were doing and thought that, of course, they were going to make them well. That, of course, did not happen. So I don't know what the answer is going forward. It's clear that Ascension-owned hospitals are an abomination, as frankly all of them are. But I don't think it's an accident that the word Ascension was in a Q drop. And I'm not tooting my own horn here. I haven't heard others make the connection between the word Ascension in that Q drop and that story and Ascension hospitals. So again, somebody with more time maybe and somebody with more research skills than my own could do a serious deep dive on that. It's evident, again, that they're a criminal organization. That goes without saying. And as you heard him say, they're circling the wagons legally because they can. They've set themselves up to kill people because all they have to get is somebody to sign on the dotted line that says, we're going to help you as best we can, but if something bad happens, well, it's not our fault. In fact, in that story, they ended up saying that apparently their daughter signed a do not resuscitate order. And the parents said something like she never would have signed that if she didn't, if she knew exactly what it was or was aware of the circumstances. There's no way that she actually knew what she was signing. Is apparently the defense, and I believe them. I believe the parents in that regard. So there you go. Okay. Two more things here. One quick 5G thing. I just wanted to read this title off the top because this is an example of an article that I included in my email to all the city council members that I mentioned at the beginning of this episode. But it again is from childrenshealthdefense.org. It's dated from the 17th of this month. It is titled U.S. Invests $1.5 billion to spur 5G rollout despite new evidence of devastating health issues. It says a new study from Sweden showed that a previously healthy woman developed symptoms of microwave syndrome shortly after a 5G cell tower was installed nearly 200 feet from her apartment. And yes, in the town where I live, there's a 5G tower that distance away from a bus stop and an apartment building. It says the following. A new study from Sweden showed that a previously healthy woman developed symptoms of microwave syndrome shortly after a 5G cell tower was installed 60 meters, nearly 200 feet from her apartment. According to the study published April 10th, the Annals of Clinical and Medical Case Reports, the 52-year-old woman developed severe health problems, including unbearable pain, headaches, dizziness, loss of immediate memory, confusion, fatigue, anxiety, nosebleeds, and issues with her lungs, stomach, and urinary system. 5G, ladies and gentlemen. But don't worry, they're in schools everywhere. What could possibly go wrong? The woman temporarily relocated to another home with low radiation levels and no 5G exposure, at which point almost all of her symptoms disappeared. When she moved back to her apartment, the symptoms returned. There you go. It says the case reports lead to author Dr. Leinert Hardold, if I'm saying that right, an oncologist and world-leading scientist on cancer risks with the Environment and Cancer Research Foundation, said that the symptoms seen in 3 case reports first appeared when a 3G or 4G tower was replaced by a 5G tower, indicating that 5G radiation is devastating for some individuals for whom it leads to a, quote, whole range of medical problems, he said. And the article continues and continues. So wanted to make you aware of that. Here's the last one. Peer-reviewed article, the most recent to the list that I am compiling. This is from the International Journal of Vaccine Theory, Practice, and Research, titled, quote, Safety of mRNA Vaccines Administered During the First 24 Months of an International COVID-19 Vaccination Program. There are 3 authors, and this was published on the 11th of this month. Allow me to read the abstract, and then I'll wrap it up. It says, quote, 2 mRNA-based COVID injectables were granted emergency use authorization in both children and adults in 2021 after an accelerated approval process that allowed the manufacturers to fast-track their products. We analyzed data from regulatory surveillance and self-reporting systems such as Defense Medical Epidemiology Database, Adura Vigilance, Eurostat, German health insurers, Israeli Ministry of Health, the Natural Cycles app, Public Health Scotland, the United Kingdom's Office of National Statistics, UK's Yellow Card Reporting System, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System, VAERS, and the vSafe After Vaccination Health Checker entries in all those databases to find long-term adverse events of the COVID products that cannot be captured during the expedited safety analysis. In this observational study, we analyzed non-foreign VAERS data for selected symptoms reported after COVID, influenza, and pertussis vaccines and calculated rates per dose administered as well as proportion of total reports received. We also looked at DMED data and compared annual incidence rates of selected conditions by taking into account the total number of military personnel for each study year. Deep breath. Our data show, among other trends, increases in adverse events reports if we compare COVID products to influenza and pertussis vaccines and statistically significant higher numbers of hospital encounters in military personnel, as well as increases in incidences of thrombometabolic, if I'm saying that right, conditions such as menstrual abnormalities, myocarditis, and cerebrovascular events after the implementation of COVID injection mandates compared to the preceding 5 years. We verified these observations using data from Adura Vigilance, the UK's ONS, German Health, blah, blah, blah. They already said all that. Our meta-analysis of both national and international vaccine adverse events emphasizes the importance of reevaluating public health policies that promote universal mass injection and multiple boosters for all demographic groups. It concludes and it says the following: in combination with informal reports from reliable witnesses, limitations of the safety trials, and the decreased lethality of new strains, our research demonstrates that the cost, both monetary and humanitarian, of injecting healthy people, and especially children, outweighs any claimed, though unvalidated benefits. Unquote. It's killing people. And it's killing more people than previous shots because, statistically, it's killed more people than all shots previously in every year previously combined. That is a fact. I hope city council's listening to this. That's a fact. And I sent this article along with many others to them. Will they read it? No. Sweep it under the rug, turn a blind eye. That's what these organizations are doing. Hospitals are doing it. School boards are doing it. City councils are doing it. Federal government, state representatives are doing it. County commissioners, they're all turning a blind eye to the largest crime that's ever been committed here, worldwide, on this grand of a scale. How do we get out of this one? That's the million-dollar question. Who gets held accountable, and how does this get fixed? Because it can't happen, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, at the local level. You can't hang a local official yet. They'll hang themselves when the Faucis of the world are brought to justice, and then the CEOs of these hospitals are brought to justice, if they are, and then politicians and so on and so forth. You could quite literally wipe out every nation's government because of this COVID hoax and these bioweapons, every single one of them. And then the people at the local level, they'll kill themselves because they won't want to have anything to do with this. But the justice has to come from the top down. It can't come from some local lawsuit. It just can't, in my humble opinion. So with that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Again, make sure and check out the email from the individual who was on the previous episode. If you're familiar with the TERT training and you want to move that email along to someone who's been associated with it and either had a negative experience with it, either on an interpersonal level or a health-related level, and then check out the template that is on my website. That'll be under the government documents section if you are interested. I also made the mistake of not emailing City Council the Died Suddenly documentary also, along with Fluvid-19. But I will put that in the template also for future reference. With that said, I'll catch you on Friday. Peace.
Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.